Hey, Josh here. Today we'll create a simple game with generative AI. The AI images we will use were generated by Stable Diffusion. In the game, the user has to distinguish between the images that were generated with AI and the images that are real. And the, better results the AI provides for these images, the harder the game is going to be. So let's take a look. So here you see 6 images. I have to figure out which one is AI generated. Just because I've played this game a lot, I'm going to guess this one, where I see there's missing detail in these flowers. Let's see another one. Okay, if I were to guess which one's AI generated here, I'm going to say this one. I got that one. Here, this one looks slightly different. Maybe it's missing some detail. I'm going to say that this is AI generated. And I got that right. So you could see I have a score here, and I can just keep on playing. Now, a little more about this game. It uses Stable Diffusion. So it uses the images from Stable Diffusion 1, but Stable Diffusion 2.0 just came out, so we're going to see these AI images get a lot better, and probably this game will get a lot harder in the near future. We're not actually going to generate AI images in real time. Instead, we're going to refer to an API which hosts many Stable Diffusion images, and we can basically search this API provided by Lexica. So you can see there's a lot of AI images here. If we go to the API, we can learn a little more about it. We can basically make a GET request to the API, and we can just provide a search. So, oops, that doesn't really matter, but here apples is the search, so you can kind of see our theme is essentially our search parameter. So that's a little bit about how we're going to get those AI images. For the real images, we'll use Unsplash. Has images that are open and available for free of use. We'll use that. There's really no need to touch any of the AI models ourselves or doing any of the training. There's a lot of APIs available nowadays where you can just essentially get already created AI content, or you can even use that basically API to get access to a model that's already trained, such as like OpenAI has some and others as well. So it's great to understand the engineering and the science behind the AI, but you can still create really interesting apps without understanding the deeper mechanics. So today we'll really just stay high level with JavaScript and ReactJS. We'll just need this API from Lexica as well as an API from Unsplash, React, and ReactJS. And that's all we really need for the project. If you don't know ReactJS, I'll provide a link to basically a tutorial I suggest following where you can learn it. And if you don't know JavaScript, then go ahead and learn that first, and then come back to this video when you feel comfortable. So with that said, let's jump in and try to write some code and build this project from scratch. Okay, so we'll start with creating the React app, but before we do that, I just wanted to mention I'll include all of the code we're going to write in this tutorial in a GitHub repo, and I've linked that GitHub repo in the description, so you can go down there and clone that if you want to just follow along instead of writing the code yourself. Okay, so let's do npx create React app. We're going to call it which is AI. This may take a moment, so we'll come back in a second. All right, so let's cd into which is AI, and I'm just going to open this with VS Code. So we can go ahead and just clear out the boilerplate code that is in here. Let's start with just a header tag. I'm gonna call it which is AI. Let's give something a little smaller, saying the game, so the user knows, okay, this is a game. And let's just give a little description of the game. So there's our simple description. How about we give create like a very simple button that the user can click to get started with the game. We'll just call it play. So let's see what this looks like. I'm going to use yarn start. All right, so let's open this up. Okay, that's pretty simple. What can we do different? I actually think let's change the background to white and make the text black. So let's go ahead and do that. Actually, I think we can just do that by wiping out the styles that are in these classes that came with Create React App. Let's do that. Okay, now we got the background white, but let's center it. So actually, I'm going to clear out this header and let's just let's do this. So let's just give this some quick styling. I'm going to just use React's inline styling. So we'll just do display flex. We'll line items center and justify content center. This will center everything. Best way to center everything is just with these three statements. So okay, one more thing we need. Let's make this. We're going to do the column. What do we call that? I think it's flex direction. That's right. Let's call it a column, and then this will align everything in a column. So now we have a column. Let's also add some padding, actually margin to the top. So let's say 50 pixels. And then we will, actually let's make this 100 pixels. There we go. Okay, so now it's got some margin there. And let's improve this play button. Let's make this a little more loud, I guess, to stand out to the user, so they should click it to play. So how about we change the background to black, and we also do the text white, and we'll add some padding, say 15 pixels. We'll increase the font size to 20, let's do 30, and we'll add some border radius, 10 pixels. So let's see what that looks like. It's a little better, a little louder. We want, when we mouse over it, we want it to indicate that it's a button. So let's go ahead and do cursor pointer, and we also, let's give it some margin so it's spaced from the content above. Okay, so that looks better. So as part of this tutorial, I also wanted to share some of the AI tools that I use to make my web development quicker, as well as, you know, just some of the fun tools that are out there. So let's create an image icon that goes with this website game, and basically this icon will kind of signal to users, you know, some information about the game. I thought it would be fun if we created a robot, which basically is like pointing at something, kind of like in the game the user has to find what is the AI generated content. I thought a fun twist would be that the robot's pointing at something instead. So yeah, let's try that. So we can try a tool to create an image. We could use Stable Diffusion to create an AI generated image, but I thought it would be interesting to try another tool. This is called Dolly. We'll use this to create an AI image. So let's go ahead and input some text here. So when we're creating AI content, the text input for the model is called the prompt. So we're going to create a prompt here. Let's say robot pointing at something. It's pretty simple. So that is basically the input for the model, and let's give it some more information. I like to create, you know, to define kind of the style of the image in the prompt. So we'll say digital art. Let's see what this gives us. All right, so here's some of the options that we got back from our prompt. Trying to decide which one I like the most. I think I like this one. Let's add this to our project. So I think we can save here. Let's download it. Okay, and I think we can go ahead and find our folder. So here it is. We'll go ahead and add it to, let's create a folder for it. So we'll call this assets, and we will just drag it into there. We'll call this robot. So now we have a nice little robot to add to our project. Where should we put that? How about we put this at the top? It looks like, so another tool, I think I mentioned we'll use a few different AI tools here. Another one that you're seeing right here is a suggestion for code complete. And this is, in VS Code, you can get Copilot is an extension, and it basically is a code completion, uses generative AI from, it's actually from OpenAI as under the hood. So essentially OpenAI has a code generation model called Codex, and Codex is, I think it's licensed by Microsoft for their VS Code, and they call their Codex version, but essentially it's Codex is the AI model under the hood, but they call it Copilot, is the name of their product. So yeah, so this is Copilot. So this is a suggestion, which is, it's not exactly what we need, but we can accept it. So I click tab to accept. Now let's go ahead and get our robot image into here. So I'm going to say import robot from, so it suggested, you see I accepted that suggestion. That's not completely right, but it's fine. It saves me a little typing. I think that's going to be under the assets directory. So now let's see. Okay, did we get that right? I can delete this. Let's go here. Oh, okay, and it's spinning. It's spinning because the suggestion that Copilot gave us was app logo, which is the boilerplate class for that create React app. So we got this spinning logo. I guess we could keep it. Maybe it's kind of fun. To make it a little better, let's do this. We'll add border radius, I think it's 50%. We'll make it a perfect circle. Okay, all right, now it's a perfect circle. So yeah, there's our game, kind of fun. Okay, now we will actually start creating the game. We'll have it so when you click the play button, you get back images from the different APIs, and the user has to basically select which one is AI generated. So, yeah. Now let's create the screen that shows up when the user starts to play. So if we go back to the code, we'll just do a state variable. So I'm going to say const show home. Yeah, we'll do that exactly. We'll have to basically Copilot completed it saying use state. We're just going to make it a bool which tells us to show that homepage we just created or not. So yep, and then that suggestion from Copilot's good as well. So now we can go ahead and let's do this. If show home is true, we'll render these this HTML that we just added. So we'll for React we have to only have one element within these conditional renderings that we just created. So basically, you know, if show home is true, then it will show us these elements. So let's make sure that works. Okay, that works, but we notice we lost our styling because we just threw it in a div. So we can just, I'm just gonna copy this styling. Okay, so we're back to where we were. Now let's see. What should we do now? So if we change this to false, our the code we just wrote doesn't show anything. So yeah, we can make it true. So what should we do if show home is not true? Let's say game is started. This is just a quick placeholder so we can see what happens. So the game is, home page is showing. Now we go false, and it should say game has started. Okay, so we can put our basically our game in this div that we just created. So we need to basically, when the user clicks play, we'll start the game. So on click, exactly. So in the Copilot suggested the code we needed. Now when using Copilot, often you'll get a good suggestion, but I just kind of wanted to share that you don't always get the right suggestion. So it's not, you can't always trust. So it's most important to understand the code you're writing and just use Copilot to reduce keystrokes or to reduce like thinking of like a long algorithm. If you know what to expect, but you don't want to write it out, Copilot sometimes will make the right suggestion. So now if we click play, let's set this to true. Click play. It changes the state variable to false, so it no longer shows the home, and we can show the game content. So yes, let's see, what should we do now? Let's create the game view. For the game view, we're not going to actually write the code. We'll copy and paste it. It takes a while to write, so for the sake of time, we'll just go to our let's go to GitHub, and I have a repository here which has the code already written. I'll link to in the description, so just go to that link and you can go into the app.js file, and let's just go ahead and copy all this code. This way we can get up kind of up and running with the game a little quicker without writing all this. So all right, so I've scrolled to the bottom of the file, Command C. So I'm just going to go in here and copy paste and save. So let's see, we'll probably get an error now. Okay, so we got an error. So there's two files that are missing. And so now we have all of the code we need to display the game. But the final part of this tutorial will be implementing these two files. So one's the API and this topic file. And I'll walk through a little bit on each of these, but the API will be what we talked about earlier, which is the Lexica API. And we're also going to go to the Unsplash API, and we're going to use that as well. So that one is at this link here. You'll see we have it's kind of essentially an app store for Unsplash, and if you go here, you can go ahead and sign up and create an app, and you'll get an API key. So let's start with this. We'll go to VS Code, and let's create this API file. APIs, we'll call this, apis.js. So the first thing we'll need is we're going to need that Unsplash key, which you'll get on their App Store. So I'm putting that in an env just to protect it for when I push this repository to be public. So we won't see that here, but you'll need to go into Unsplash and basically I think they have an app tier which is like development or playground, and it's not a production version. I don't think you have to pay anything, so you can go ahead and get a key and put it in an env. Yeah, and so that's the first step here on the APIs, and then let's create a function that will go to Unsplash, and it will get it will get photos from their API. So we'll call this export cons. We'll call this get normal images. And this will be essentially hey, let's get, 4, 5, 6 images that are normal real images from Unsplash, and we're going to put those in with AI image, and the user's going to have to figure out in the game which one is AI generated. So Copilot's making a suggestion here. I'm going to accept that, but I'm going to change term to search. And let's see how it does with the suggestion. This isn't exactly what, this isn't exactly what we want. I think it's missing a few things. So let's go ahead and we're going to create a URL. This is the API endpoint essentially, and we're passing in our search with, we'll have a key detail to get basically some details for the search, and we're going to have a client ID, which is the key, which I talked about up here. And then we're going to put the content filter high, just to keep the application safe and reduce any content that's not friendly. And then we're going to get back 30 images. So we're going to do that. Now we're going to return a promise because this is an async API call, so it won't resolve immediately. So let's do that. Return new promise. Let's see how it's. So I'll accept that suggestion. The only difference, I think I need async here. And just looking at, so that suggestion is not correct. So response is, that's correct. So I'm accepting that suggestion. That's correct. Const will basically get the images from the data results, and we will resolve with those images. And I'm just accepting a few of the Copilot suggestions. So there's our first API call that we needed to implement. One thing I noticed also, this needs to just be API.js, not APIs. Based on here, we're importing it as API. So we've got that. Now let's do our API call for the AI images. So at this point, as I mentioned earlier, we're not generating an image in real time with a generative AI model. We are actually just getting pre-existing images based on a search. So we can do that with Lexica. So let's go ahead and define this function. So get AI image. This will be async and search, just like we did before. So now it's making suggestion. This is an example of Copilot not working correctly, where it's basically saying the URL should be Unsplash, but it really doesn't know that what we're doing with our project here. So the real URL is going to be slightly different. To get this function started, we're going to also return a promise. We can accept that because that's correct. And so we're going to do a few other things with this function though. We're going to let search term equal search.isPhoto. And basically the reason we're doing this is to get AI images, because they're already generated. There's some that will look hyper-realistic and some that are cartoonish. And we want to define for the API when we want something that's photo level quality. So I created this simple key in the search called isPhoto. And it's basically, if we define that it is a photo, we want our search term to basically say that it's a photo. So photo of, plus search.detail. So basically it's saying if we're defining earlier, and you'll see this in the other code, that is a photo, then we want it search to be photo of, and then whatever this thing is, whether, it's like a giraffe or a bird or something. That way we can get photorealistic images from Lexica. So, and if it's not a photo, then we'll just search the detail. So whatever that is, say it's like a illustration, as we saw earlier as one example. It's not going to say photo of illustration, it's just going to say illustration. So we're just doing a quick check there. so let's go ahead and define this URL. So it's not the one that it's specifying there. It's going to be, I'm just going to copy and paste this from somewhere else. So here's our URL. It's going to be basically lexica.art/API version 1 and then our search term. So let's real quick, I'm just going to close this function because it needs closing braces, so it's not complaining at us. So let's look real quick at the API on Lexica and see why we're doing it this way. So to use Lexica's search API, you don't have to authenticate. It's just a simple GET request, and you pass in your search term. So it could be apples, and then we're going to get back basically this JSON object, and it's going to have all this information about the photo. It's going to have the URL where we can get it, so the source. It's going to have an ID, which we don't really need in our case, and some other information is in there. So we'll go through, and you'll see one place similar to with, if we go look at here, we have a content filter. We have also a content filter here called NSFW. And so we'll set this to true, to false, because we don't want, we want to filter the images. So if we look at here, okay, so we have our URL, and we want to get our response. We'll set the data variable to just the JSON response, and then we'll basically, we'll get the images out of the results. Actually, for this API, the images are in the key images, and then we're going to filter. So this is where we're going to filter out the. We're going to do the content filter. So we're going to do filtered images equal. So let's see if it's got this correct. That's not right. So images.filter where image is not NSFW. Okay. So there we go. We have our filtered images, and we can resolve with those images. So, okay, so we've done 2 API calls now. So it still won't work. There's one other thing we have to do, but if we go here, you'll see we no longer have the error where it was saying couldn't resolve /API. Now we have this topic. So let's go ahead and implement this topic file, and I'll tell you a little bit about what this is. So topic.js. In topic.js, we'll define the game parameters, essentially. This is where we list images for the game to select from. So if we want the game to use images of trees or mountains or nature, we can put that all in this file. So let's start with defining like what type of images we want. So how about we'll start with, how about a tree? So the user will look, they'll see images of a tree. They'll have to figure out which one is generated by AI. What are some other options? How about a mountain? And so you see Copilot's making some suggestions. Why don't we see what Copilot has to say? Okay, we can do beach, a cave, sure. Okay, those seem like a few good start images. So in this game, just kind of the way I had originally thought about building it, we'll do both like image types, which are like here, they all happen to be landscape, but let's also define images that aren't necessarily like photorealistic, but maybe they're illustrations or drawings. And I was calling these themes. So let's see, let's say illustration. Painting. Drawing, sketch, those work as examples. I wanted to talk a little more about why I make a difference between type and theme, which these might not even be the best variable names, but this basically came from my experience creating the game originally, where I wanted the game to be somewhat hard, but not too hard. And I found that some topics are really hard to figure out if they're AI generated or if they're real images or human creations. One topic that's really hard is illustrations. I find is particularly hard to know what's an AI generated illustration versus a real human piece of work. And I wanted to throw in a mix of difficult topics, but also some easier ones. I found that things like mountains are a little easier to figure out what's AI generated, what's human generated. So the ones on the top, the types, they're going to go in and be essentially here where we put is photo, photo of. This will be the search term. So we'll do photo of tree, photo of mountain, and it will basically be more comparable to what we get from Unsplash, because it's going to say a photo of a tree, and it will look at Lexica's AI generated images, and it will find a photo of a tree, and then it will compare it to Unsplash's images, which are generally photo format. But then when we search Unsplash for illustrations, we don't want to search photo of illustrations on Lexica. So that's where we're going to basically say, is photos going to be false for these themes down here? And without diving too much into the reason for the differences, the main reason I found is that this gives, by differentiating between things that should be a photo of and things that shouldn't be a photo, it's easier to, it makes the game a mix of hard and easy. So yeah, I'm curious once this game is created, if you're working through tutorial, if you have any ideas on how to make this game better. I think one way to make the game better is each level, each score, you get harder images to basically differentiate between. But it's a very basic game for now, so we'll just use these very basic terms. So now let's go ahead and export these topics. We're going to create an export function, get topic. So this doesn't actually have to be async like it just suggested. This can just be, we're just going to basically grab from these two arrays. So const, we want to randomly select, at least in how I've designed the game so far, random select through getting from the type array or the theme array. So we're going to do random round math. Okay, so that's going to just basically give us either a random 0 or 1. And if it's this is just a very basic way to kind of randomize whether we get from the type array or from the theme array. So we're going to do, if random 0, then we're going to go ahead and we're going to do another randomization. So we're going to get a random index equals math.floor. We're going to go ahead and, actually I can accept this because that's correct. So we're going to get random index from the type array, and we're going to get it based on the type.length. So in this instance, it's 5 types in there. It's like a tree, a mountain, 5 different. So that's going to get a random index for that. And so if we got a random 0 up here, then we're going to return a simple object where the detail is type.random and is photo. It's saying is photo false. We actually want is photo true here, because we want, if we get the topic and we're getting back a type, we want the search parameter for the API to be photo of tree, photo of mountain, and such. So that is the reason for creating that simple object. So else, if the is random is not equal 0, I'm going to do random index, and this is correct as well. I can accept that. We want a random index for this array, and then we're going to return. Let's see how it does with this. Is photo false? So this is correct. So it's basically, it's not going to search is photo for these. That's not going to be the search parameter. The parameter will be the actual, just the array value. This one's a little confusing. I could probably just remove this because we're talking about whether we're searching for photos or not, and I think that's a little confusing. So removing that from here. Yeah, so this get topic is done. So I think this will actually work. We can try the game now. So let's go ahead and let's go back to our localhost 3000 where we're running our React app. And yeah, let's click play. So here we are. We have some images. This actually seems pretty hard, right? So the theme is tree, like we had defined here. Oops. Theme is tree, and we've gotten a random AI image in here somewhere. I'm just looking at this. I think it's this one because it doesn't have as much detail. It almost doesn't look quite like a photo. So let's try it. I was wrong. So this is an AI image. And just to check everything's working correctly, let's click see this AI image. Okay, so you can see this is on Lexica. Yeah, so this is a real AI image. So let's try again. All right, so now we have painting as the topic. So I think we have that here. Yep, so that's a theme. So this didn't search photo of painting. This just searched photo. This just searched painting. And now this is one of the topics I found is particularly hard. Now, just from playing the game a few times, I'm gonna guess this because I see this there's missing detail, it appears in this hand. So I don't think this is someone actually painting. Okay, I got that one correct. Cool. All right. I think that this is probably AI generated. Okay, got that one correct. So yeah, that's our game, and this is definitely AI generated. It looks very odd. I mean, maybe someone could have drew this, but okay, we have a game. Cool. We should walk through real quick how it works because I don't think we've walked through exactly how these API calls get to the point where we get the image and we actually display it. So let's walk through it. So we are getting the AI image. I'm just searching here. So I'm going to go Linux instance of where we call this. So we call it on line 49. We get AI images. And so we saw this API call here. We defined it here. So we're going to get a list, basically array of filtered images, and we get an array of normal images. And now this is where we randomize these images together, create image array. So here we're going to get a, I wonder if I'm doing this twice. I see that I'm getting a random, oh no, this is correct. Sorry for that. We're getting a random AI image here. There's based on the length. And then for normal images, we're going to get, it looks like we're going to get 5 normal images. So for the length of the normal images array, we get a random index, and then we get a random image, and then we, assuming we haven't already added this image previously in the loop, we push the image into the image array. So now we have an image, we have an array of normal images, and we have one single AI image. And now we're gonna add a little detail to this basically normal image. We're actually gonna change the normal images from an array to an array of basically objects. So we want to know, is it AI or not? So it's going to be false for all of these real images. And then we're going to get our AI image. So this is all our detail from the AI image. And we're going to push it into this image array. And then we're going to randomize it. So now we've got this image array is random real photos with one AI image randomly put in the array. And so where do we use this? So we use this up here, I think. So here are our images. We've got back our random image array, and we're going to go ahead and set the images to this random image array. And I'm guessing now if I search images, there's going to be quite a bit. Let's see if we can find this. Okay, this is the place in the code where we're basically going to display all these images into an image tag, and we're going to add some mouse down listeners so that when you click it, if you click it, it scales up, just so kind of to give feedback. So let's see, and then sorry, this is on mouse hover. we show feedback, not on click. So when you mouse enters, it scales up, so we can see that that's working correctly. So let's see. So when we go mouse enter, it scales up, and mouse leave, it scales back down. And then when you click, it's basically going to, if it's AI, you scored. If not, you lose. So that's it. Great job. Let's look at the game one more time. So here we are, and we click play, and there are our images. In this video, we created a simple game with generative AI. First, we started with the React app, and we had the boilerplate React app. We created some styles and display logic and added the API calls to Unsplash for the real images and the one API call to Lexica for an AI-generated image. We created our game topics, such as mountains and illustrations, and we brought that all together for the final game output. If you made it this far, thanks for sticking through it. This is my first YouTube video, and I plan to make more. I'm focused on AI apps, primarily on the web, so that's what you can expect to see more from me for. So feel free to subscribe if you want to see more content like this. You can also follow me on Twitter at Josh Bickett, and I'll provide all the links that we talked about in the video at the bottom. And thanks again. I had one final thought. I made Witches AI an open source repo, so if you want to make adjustments and do a pull request, I'll take a look, and I may accept it. So yeah, I'd love to get input on how to improve the game. If anyone adds code or adds types of images or anything like that, yeah, please make a PR request. I'd love to add it to the main witchesai.com. Yeah, thanks again for watching.